The final race of the GT3 Championship about ready to kick off here in sunny California, and not just sunny California, it is 33C out here bright and early in the morning, almost 11 a.m. on the clock, and it's going to be toasty out here. Martin Grady, currently watching him come around the track. First off in practice, qualifying about to start. He's going to park it, get back to the garage, make some final tweaks as Nicholas Taylor takes over that top spot in qualifying right behind him. Grady's been at the top the entire practice session, but Taylor is trying to bring it in as he has a P2 to take for the championship if he's lucky here today at Laguna. Hello everyone, my name is Mike Jones, joining here for the final race of the Friday Championship in place of Ryan Mawson. Ryan Gill will be behind the cameras today, taking the place of Stewie Heilman. And of course, would we have a Friday Championship if it wasn't for Jesse Lee also here? So we're going to have America stream just all day today, Jesse.
You didn't do the thing, Mike Jones. You didn't do the thing.
I didn't do the thing, and I didn't do it on purpose, Jesse Lee.
Oh, that is so desperately disappointing. I expected Mike Jones to do the, well, it's about that time again. Well, he didn't do that, but it is about that time again. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the GT3 Friday season finale. It's very warm, like you said. It's only going to get warmer, if anything, and a lot of drivers complaining in practice about tire temperature, especially in that right rear.
Yeah, and it's something that we see kind of no matter what at Laguna Seca, right? The tire temperatures are always pretty hot. It could be 10°C out on the track, and it's your right rear still going to get a little toasty here at Laguna Seca just every single time. I mean, it's such a difficult track here on the tires. I know that from experience, both from racing and from commentating here, and it is just difficult. I mean, here out in California, where I'm at, I'm only about an hour and a half from the Laguna track. We constantly have, there's tons of sand, tons of dirt, and especially out here in the Bay Area where Laguna Seca's at, it gets pretty bad. And when it gets this hot, even here at Laguna, it's going to get even worse. We're probably going to see quite a few spins, individual spins, not even contact with other cars here today. I would not be surprised to see at least a few of those as we have 75 minutes of racing. There is one pit stop, and Jesse Lee, you were theorizing as we are watching the first set of cars come out on the track to do their laps for qualifying here. Crozen was the first one out, of course, and we're going to see how the Porsche handles this through the qualifying session. But Jesse, you were theorizing that even though it is not required, we're going to see some tire stops today.
Yeah, of course, in the race, all you have to do is do the mandatory 1-liter fuel stop. But in today's weather, and especially here at Laguna anyway, you would consider in a 75-minute race a tire change. I know a lot of drivers have already planned for it, which means they'll be running lower fuel in the race. The question for me is not if people will take tires. The question I have today is who won't take tires and gamble. 75 minutes and 38-degree C heat. That is a long time for your right rear to last in this condition. So we'll see how that all works out. And it's going to be interesting to see what the strategy is. We've seen a couple of people steal wins this season. Could today be a surprise winner as well?
It very well might be. Obviously, Nicholas Taylor and Martin Grady fighting for that top spot in practice as we're watching Crozen here do the first lap of qualifying. You can see that there he is right there again. A little bit of wiggle in the tires through the middle of the corner. It's fast out on the track. It's not quite optimum grip with the heat as well. It's going to be sketchy out here. And it's really interesting to see just how, even in the qualifying session, these guys are pushing so hard. Who is actually going to complete a quick lap and keep grip through the whole minute and 21, minute 22 lap time that we're going to see here today? But it'll be interesting, Jesse, to see who actually does take tires or not. I think I agree with you that most of them are going to be, and of course, our top 3 championship performers, Tinko van der Velde, George Boothby, and Jaroslav Hanzik, out today as they are racing in a pre-planned charity event, as I understand, and did not make it. Tinko van der Velde has already locked in P1 for the championship, but George Boothby and Jaroslav Hanzik in P2, P3, tied in points, by the way, at 257. Nicholas Taylor has it all to fight for here. As long as he doesn't take basically last place, he only needs, I believe it is 15 points to finish P2 in the championship. I'm sure that we're going to see him fighting for it. And of course, he was one of the ones in practice that was pretty quick near the end of the session. And speaking of at the end of the session, Martin Grady, of course, was faster in practice than pretty much everybody else through the entire time until Taylor took it over. And so far puts down the fastest lap here with a high 22. I would expect that to fall probably another half a second as long as these guys can keep it together within the next 6 minutes.
It's going to be an interesting 6 minutes to see what everybody has, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some spins, and we haven't talked about that, but this is Laguna Seca, and one of the things that we normally see here is spins off of, what is that, about turn 6 through 8.
Turn 6, yep.
Corkscrew, strangely enough, not usually the problem here. It is the set piece of this racetrack, however, and in recent times, with some of the grip and some of the changes that ACC has gone through, we've seen some excellent side-by-side racing down through the Corkscrew, fender banging, and just fantastic stuff. But turn 6, I think, is going to be where the hot corner is, and you are probably going to see that come up here in qualifying as everybody tries to get every ounce of performance that they possibly can. Rins Crozen goes top of the board, a 22.720, 1.5 tenths quicker than this man Tidge, but Martin Grady is on a flyer. Tidgney trying to come to the line to get a little bit. He's going to not improve. Actually, he's going to improve. It's a 22.807, but not nearly enough. Herbert Frischel goes quickest, a 22.675.
Yeah, Grady lost it there on the last corner, just outbroke himself a little bit, lost almost 3/10 through the last corner. I know how difficult that last corner is. It is one of my weakest points on this track when I'm driving through. I can never quite find the proper braking point for that final corner. It's such an odd one because you've got to switch back so quickly coming off a rainy curb and then through turn 10 as you approach the final corner down in turn 11. But Grady, even these guys are going to struggle with it a little bit. And, Jesse, you bring up a good point. The changes that ACC has made, something that we haven't actually seen yet here is post 1.8 Laguna Seca. We have a whole new tire set here at Laguna Seca today. Of course, the ICGT tracks used to run the 2019 tires, as ACC had not been updated with the new, I believe they're the DHL tires, if I'm not mistaken, or DHR, something along that line, D something. DHE, our producer's telling me. And, so we have the DHE tires here. The 2020 bought the DHE tires. It's going to be interesting to see because I haven't driven Laguna Seca with these new tires yet, and they are definitely more difficult to keep within operating temperature than the old 2019 tires, but they tend to wear a little better if you do keep them within the window. So, you know what? Maybe we won't see people have to pit because of the new tire set, or pit for tires rather, for the new tire set, but can they keep it within operating temperatures in these really hot conditions, I think will be the question.
I think those are all very valid questions. And the other part of that puzzle, of course, is, well, the car that you're in, a mid-engine car, is likely to burn off its rears a little bit more ferociously than a front-engine car. And we'll have to see if that plays a factor. João Cavaca quickest so far, a 22.502 with 3 minutes to play. Herbert Frischel second. Rins Crozen rounding out the top three. Nicholas Taylor there, you just saw in the 17 Aston. He can go from fourth to second in the championship here today. And a good lap from him. We'll see him in fourth place. Martin Grady, who was briefly on the provisional pole earlier, now 3/10 off and back in fifth. But I like what I'm seeing here. A lot of close times up next to each other. The entire top 10 all the way down to 13th, all within a second here. Looking pretty good so far.
And I was just checking on Taylor, by the way. He does indeed need 15 points, which means that as long as he finishes in P16, in other words, not last today, he will finish second in the championship overall for our final season of the Friday Championship here in the year 2021. So that's what he's going to be looking for. Of course, he'll want to get more than that. Naturally, as Jesse likes to put it, racing drivers are going to be racing drivers. You want to take first no matter what. But in the end, as long as he finishes at least P16 and completes, I believe it's 85% race distance is the rule, he will get the points and skyrocket himself up into P2 ahead of George Boothby and Jaroslav Honzik, who again, of course, are not here for the race today. And here he is, still trucking around in qualifying. He's got about 1 lap left after this one, as long as he's got the fuel for it. He is currently dead even with his lap fastest at the moment. 3/10 off the leader, gained a little bit of time there coming in through turn 5. Martin Grady as well is gaining a little bit of time. He's about a 10th up on his lap out behind Taylor on the track. And both these guys just kind of fighting for position. Aston Martin, Bentley, generally probably not what we're going to see at the top of the leaderboard. Ooh, there he goes.
Oh,
around.
there it is.
The curb. Catches the curb as he comes around the corkscrew. Nice hold by Taylor there, though, to keep himself on the track. You catch a little bit of the replay here. You can see he just catches that and then cuts the inside a little bit, goes over the bump, throws himself sideways. I don't even think he touched the dirt, though, Jesse Lee. That was an excellent hold by him. That's not something we see. Usually, if you go off in the corkscrew, you're done. Usually, you go into the wall, you're spun, your tires are done. If I was Taylor, I think I'd take that. He's going to come across the line. Nope, never mind. I thought he was going to go for one more lap, but no, he decided his tires are done.
Quite interestingly, Kavaka, the first one in pit lane, will take no further part in the session. He's joined by Taylor, as you just saw, Valentin Berry and Max Payne also out of this session. Barzaghi joining them down in 12th place. Everybody else still fighting here in the dying moments as Martin Grady resets as well. And we'll have to see if one of these drivers, like Martin Lawrence, for instance, can bump up a little bit further. What does Herbert Fischel have in his Honda? Perhaps maybe Rins Krozen can get his Porsche up at the front. Everybody just either resetting because they've invalidated their lap or realizing they're not going quicker here at the end of this session. It's an odd scene where you have so many of the top 10 in pit lane before the session is even over. But what will Martin Lawrence have? This might be an improvement for the connection loss driver. It is an improvement, but he does not improve his starting position.
No, but overall, not bad. I mean, he's still 7/10 off the leader back in P12. Overall, I'd say all these guys are pretty close here in the qualifying session. Again, track is still not even optimum, so these cars that, a lot of the times you're going to set up your car, especially if you know the race is going to be dry, you set up your car for the optimum conditions, which means you're going to be a little squirrely if the condition isn't fast, just like today. And you can see, I mean, Dylan Beeson there getting a little sideways as he comes through the corkscrew. Just that little bit of traction loss as you kind of come over that crest down the hill. And he's getting a little loose there again, even as he comes out through Rainy Curve and in through the final corner. He will come. He's a couple tenths up on his lap, so this should, as long as he doesn't lose it here, and I think he's gaining a little bit more, looking like he's going to at least push himself up to a second off the leader, give or take. Not quite, actually, 1.1 off the leader. But everybody's pretty close. I mean, Sundstrom down at the back, still only a little over a second away, Jesse Lee. Only 17 cars on the track here at Laguna today. It's something that all these guys are going to be well within a shot by hot lap pace to fight with each other through the 75-minute race.
I've seen some crazy things happen at Laguna Seca. You can never count anyone out as long as they're still in this race. And today, I think it's going to be a tale of who can survive. I think it's going to be about survival. Well, before we get to the race, let's take a look at the championship standings and show you how we got here. Today's finale is the final race of the year, I think, for GT3 series competition. And here we have the GT3 Pro Championship for Friday. Tinker van der Velde leading the championship. He is champion-elect today with 331 points. He is not here. Neither is Jardier or George Boothby. They're dead level on points. That's where they will end. The story starts in 4th place. Nicholas Taylor has 243 points. Anything better than 16th today will guarantee him 2nd place in the championship. He cannot take 1st, but he can jump all the way to 2nd. And considering where Taylor was 2 weeks ago outside the top 5, it is a very welcome sight for Nicholas Taylor. Rounding out the top 5, Konstantin Soldatov at 206, fighting João Cavaca, who has 198. Herbert Fischel on 195. 10 points behind them in 8th is Martin Grady with 185. Christoph Verstreppen with 171. And rounding out the top 10, Valentin Berry at 162. All those drivers within a reasonable shot of a top 5.
Yeah, and
back half here.
remainder of it as well. Martin Lawrence back in P11. He is only 20 points off P10 of Valentin Barre. He's got enough points here that he can fight for a top 10 if he's, finishing far enough up the field today. Frozen and Sundstrom, who of course we saw near the bottom of the field for qualifying back in P12, B13, tied for points. They're going to be fighting each other at the back half of the field for points. And then Dubel, Barzaghi, Klims, Conway, Chamberlain, and Mulholland is pretty much out of the championship at this point. Most of them are not here today as well. Won't be fighting for a ton of points. And then the remainder of the grid here, Stephenson, Crow. We got 2 Crozens here, I do believe. Might be a little bug on the standing screen, as I believe we saw Crozen. That's a different Crozen. We have Renz and Menno Crozen. I'm sorry, I forgot we have the brothers here, don't we? Borodai, Savaline, and Payne, and Euphoria, Beeson, Massum, Stachecki, and Batsatella. And just the back half of the grid here. But Jesse, I think the story of the race here is going to be looking at P6, 7, and 8, who are all very close to each other and are all racing today. And I think that Kavaka, Froschel, and Grady, especially with Kavaka getting the pole position, they're P1, 2, 3 at the moment. This is going to be a hell of a fight between them.
Could potentially wear out the calculator here a little bit today as well, trying to figure it out. It's so very close, as we documented just there, between the back half of the top 10. You could literally see, even outside that, you could see 11th place jump as many as 6 places here in this final race. It is very possible. It all depends on how it shakes out. We're following several storylines today. 38 degrees C, the track temperature very warm indeed. I asked the race admin if that was completely intentional pre-race, and he said absolutely it was. We haven't had a really hot race, and they've tried to mix up the weather conditions this entire season. I think they've done a really great job of doing that, and today a hot race, and anyone who's ever been to Laguna Seca knows that it can get quite toasty here. So we're watching the tire temps. We're watching if they change tires in their mandatory stop. Keep in mind they don't have to, but they might elect to if the tires get a little bit too warm or wear a little bit too much in the first half of the race. And there always is the opportunity that somebody else may elect to not do that. And we'll have to see how that all works out. We've seen a mixed tire strategy all season long. I don't think that's going to change too much today.
No, I don't think so either. And I think that you're right. I think we're going to see more people be taking tires here today than we have in the remainder of the championship, just because of the tire temperatures or the air and track temperatures rather. And also the new tires, depending on how well that you can, keep those tires within their operating temperatures and optimum PSI levels, you might end up wearing your tires a little bit more. And also, depending on how close these guys are racing, if these guys spread out a little bit and they're not hard racing each other, they're not having to get super hard on the brakes, they're not, drifting around the corners a little bit because they're trying to push and keep somebody behind them, they might be okay to not change tires. But I don't think that's going to happen here today. I think we're going to see close fighting all day long, especially between a few of these guys who are so close in the points, like we talked about, the 33, 86, and 18 that are P1, 2, 3 at the moment. Kavaka, Froschel, and Martin Grady. I know Martin Grady's out for a win. His stream title for the day is "Can we win? We did well last time." And I know that he wants one. He is desperate for a win. He hasn't gotten one all season, hasn't even finished on the podium all season, but has just done pretty well overall, which is why he's holding 8th in the championship still, even though he's had a couple of, kind of subpar races, to say the least. But he's going to be going for it today. And I think that it's going to be the situation of Martin Grady really, really giving it his all and giving Froschel and Kavaka something to fight for.
Martin Grady has ran really well the last couple of weeks. Some of the times doesn't get the finishes he necessarily deserves or where his pace would dictate he should be. But beyond that, he is extremely talented. Of course, relative newcomer to ACC this year and already mixing it up with the pro drivers. That shows you what kind of caliber the driver of the 18 Bentley has. But for the start of this race. Kavaka and Frechelle will have the first crack at this, but don't look past Rins Kroos and Martin Grady and even Savalainen behind them. What does Taylor do here, starting from 6th place? Do they get very aggressive here on this start? We will certainly find out in the Andretti hairpin. But before we do that, a very special hello to all of you in YouTube chat. Thanks for being with us not only this Friday, but every Friday for this championship. We hope that you've enjoyed it as much as we have bringing it to you. Myself, Jesse Lee, Mike Jones, and Ryan Rai Gill in the booth with you tonight for the finale. And what a finale it is likely going to be. Before we take the green flag, a thank you to our partners, Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, Fanatec, and SimRacing.gp. More about them after the race.
And as we're coming through the corkscrew on the formation lap here, these guys are going to start stacking up in their final formation as they approach down through Rainy Curve for the last time before they go green into turn 10. Kavaka leading the field around, going to be on that inside line for the Andretti hairpin for lap 1. Hopes to hold it steady. Of course, that Honda really good in a straight line. Can he keep it steady and ahead of the Honda before they get down into turn 1 and 2 will be the question. Coming down through the kink, down through the front straight, which is turn 1 here at Laguna Seca, much like Kyalami. It's definitely something that is going to be interesting. We usually see these guys down the inside line taking almost to the pit lane as they come down, especially on the first lap. Kavaka gonna lead them down. Looks like he's got a nice little gap behind the Honda there, with Martin Grady following out behind, waiting for those lights. And there it goes. We are green for the final race of the Friday GT3 Championship. The Ferrari does not get as good of a jump as maybe he was hoping for. The Honda definitely side by side, got the little nose there in front, but down to the Andretti hairpin, the inside line is where you want to be, and the Honda's going to lose it. Now, Martin Grady, not even side by side. Martin Grady gets the run off the corner and gets up into P2, P4 to P2 immediately for Grady, and there's the contact in the background. Somebody got shuffled off there, it looks like. I think that was Krozen.
Oh, it's still going on.
Is it still going? Yeah, there it is.
It's Savalainen. Oh, Savalainen, what I think was a victim here. I don't think they were the aggressor, but it all started. Oh yes.
Grass.
He followed Climbs off the racetrack there. That's the red and white Porsche. And Savalainen did not fare nearly as well. That accident started way further up the field. Rins Krozen nearly lost it in turn 2, and that stacked up the field. And then he saw Climbs get all sorts of out of sorts on 2 different corners. Savalainen followed him and ended up getting the worst part of that. The best part about that, though, no contact.
No, and that's what the stewards will be thankful for. I mean, they hit the dirt, they spun themselves. Even if it was a little bit of an issue, with checking up ahead, in the end, no contact there. The stewards will, of course, take a review and see. Maybe they will find some sort of fault, if there is any sort of issue. But such a beautiful, beautiful start from Grady, pushing up through P2 ahead of Frechelle, and then subsequently, of course, ahead of Frozen. He got the lap off, and Jesse Lee is laughing about something. What's going on now, Jesse?
Oh, just Andretti hairpin. I thought Martin Grady was going to take an extra bite of the apple right there. He closed right on the back of Kavaka. I don't know if Kavaka was trying to diamond off the corner, but Grady was rotating the center and nearly got into the back of him. Here's the story for me. Herbert Frechelle had a almost nightmarish start, was hung out on the outside, and off of the outside of 1, ended up hitting the dirt, lost a position. And by the way, Rins there, who's had a little contact with Nicholas Taylor, in fact, as Rins is driving up to the corkscrew. Oh, and he's in the grass, and he's hit the wall, just losing it a little bit after the contact with Taylor. I don't know if there was, but if there was light contact. There's a bump there in the dirt. Oh, and there's going to be contact with the wall, and our first real incident of the day happens to be with Rins Krozen, who never looked comfortable in his number 81 Porsche, and now has damage.
Yeah, gonna have definitely a little bit of damage as he catches the curb there as well.
That?
Turn 10. There was another car off in front of him as well that kind of ran off the road a little bit. I don't see any contact on our screen here, so I want to assume that somebody probably ran wide coming out of or into turn 10.
Minnow Cruises.
Savalainen is what Ryan Gill is saying. That was off ahead. So Savalainen struggling here after going off and probably flat spotting his tires on lap 1. That's the one that we saw just about hit the inside wall, as Martin Lawrence getting all out of shape as he comes through the first sector of the track here. He's trying to get onto the back of Max Payne and his Nissan GTR, but you can really see, Jesse, I mean, especially with the track not being off them yet, we said it earlier, these guys are struggling for grip.
Yeah, they're absolutely, and strangely enough, it looks like the front engine cars are doing the better part of the struggling. I know we saw Rins hit the wall there, but that was because he was in the dirt. That had nothing to do with track grip. He wasn't on the track when that occurred. But you think about Savalainen, you think about you know, a lot of the other cars here that are front engine, like Martin Lawrence and Savalainen, who are having issues. They're having issues completely by themselves, just trying to fight the racetrack. It's slightly cooler, the track temp, than it was in practice and qualifying, but not enough to really make a difference. And that, you couple that, exactly like you said, with a less than optimum racetrack, everybody out there sliding around just a little bit. By the way, Martin Grady, the fastest man on track, and I think we kind of knew that based on the fact that he was staying glued to the back of Kavaka. As they stay glued to each other, so does Taylor and Frechelle. Frechelle, who had a very shaky first couple of laps. Yeah, Frechelle, who had a very shaky first couple of laps, looks like they've sorted it out right now.
Yeah, that fight is shaping up to go the distance here. Max Payne getting a little sideways as they're coming out of the first sector. And we're going to switch back actually to Taylor and Frechelle, who are getting side by side coming into turn 6. This is the last place you want to be side by side at, boys.
Oh, you don't like this.
Even by oh, he doesn't hit the curb. Keeps it together all the way through turn 6. The most difficult
watch out, boys.
track. And the Bentley behind is just going, guys, please, go faster. Coming down through the corkscrew now side by side. Barrier all over the back of that Honda, looking for a place to go. There it is. There's the little bit of the contact, just a little bit is all it needs to shove Frechelle off the track, and that shuffles him back 2 positions, back to P5, and that's going to be Nicholas Taylor now with the podium position for the moment. Barrier now up to P4, and we're going to catch a little bit of a replay of this entire thing here, Jesse Lee. Fantastic driving by these two.
Absolutely, and the 1.8 update, a little bit of sideways there was Herbert Frechelle. That's how Nicholas Taylor is going to get side by side with him there. I didn't actually see that initial wiggle, but once again, it's going to get side by side as Frechelle is going to be stranded on the outside here, and we talked about it. Yes, indeed, it is Taylor. That is an Aston cockpit. Now, yes, indeed.
Ryan keeps changing cameras.
It's perfectly fine. Ryan Gill working overtime here, but this is side-by-side action. And you're going to see a little bit of contact here. Just a little bit. And that is what sent Frechelle. Didn't get to the wall. That contact inconsequential, really, other than the 1 position lost. But I will say the 1.8 update worked on a lot of things. Netcode was a little bit of a thing that had been a problem where you could absolutely send a car with minor contact. I think 3 weeks ago, that ends up in a big accident. Today, however, just excellent racing, fender to fender. Both drivers very hungry.
Jesse Lee.
I see it too, and I think I know what happened.
I see it. They're both got the exact same lap.
That is insane, folks. Of course, one other thing that 1.8 brought, I know you've heard us talk about this several times, is the magenta number for whomever has the fastest lap. Well, for a moment there, you saw Kavaka and Grady have magenta numbers on both of their names. That's not a glitch. That was because they were dead tied for fastest lap. By the way, Mike Jones, as proprietor here at RCI, if 2 people have an identical lap for fastest lap, how do you award them points?
I feel like we would have to take whoever did it first, which is generally how we do pretty much anything, along with the overall standing points as well. So it would be whoever set the lap first. In this case, it would have been Martin Grady. Should they have done that, much like they would do, as Ryan Gill is now saying to us in our chat, much like we do in qualifying. So that's how that would end up working. But Nicholas Taylor has spoiled that for the moment, went about 6.5 tenths faster, sorry, 7.5 tenths faster.
7.5 tenths
hundredths.
quicker.
7.5 tenths hundredths quicker. Yeah, he ran a 23.115 as compared to the 23.190s, as Klims is hard on the brakes there behind the Nissan. That Porsche can brake so much later than the Nissan GTR will, that coming into the corkscrew, he's got to be extra careful not to bump the back of Max Payne. And try to be careful. Bad exit there from Payne. The Porsche might be able to get alongside.
Oh, in the
dirt! He went for it, and Max Payne shut the door, and that's going to be Chamberlain up a position.
Harley Chamberlain said, "Thank you very much. I'll take those freebies all day long." Nicholas Taylor, what about him? Won 1 week ago in grand fashion, and now looking to get a second win. We've only had 4 different winners this season. Nicholas Taylor became the 4th different winner in round 6 1 week ago, and if he could win here again today, that would that'd be quite interesting. I know 4 out of 7 rounds with different winners doesn't sound too impressive, but it has been a season dominated by the few.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Gill and I were talking about this before you popped into the box today, Jesse Lee, but George Boothby, who arrived on the ACC scene this year, doesn't have a massive history in sim racing or anything like some of these guys do. Boothby is just one of the quickest guys that I have ever seen in a sim race car. He really is. And he comes in, anytime he's in one of our championships, he just comes in and just wins. He signed out of 2 races, 3 now for as this is the finale. And the man's still in P2. I think that says enough.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up the 3 races. He hadn't finished worse than 2nd place after 3 rounds. That's an easy way to get yourself a lot of points. And to George Boothby's credit, I mean, the man, he's a streamer himself, and you can watch him, his dedication to racing. He takes it very seriously, but he also has a lot of fun doing it, and I think that's important. I think that's lost on a lot of people. You realize sim racing is supposed to be a lot of fun. George has a lot of fun with it. He's also really good at it, which helps you have fun at it. And the man's amazing. He can get into anything, and he can learn it very quickly. He spent the first part of
he picked up the Porsche for this championship.
Well, yeah, he wanted to learn the Porsche. He's using the Porsche in other championships as well, and he has probably one of the best teachers ever in Jardier helping him out with that. But yeah, and he took to it like a duck to water. Has George Boothby. He went into that first race, and I was talking to him about it, and he said, I'm not too sure. We'll see how it goes. And he was running just about the quickest laps in pro in a field of 30 cars. That's George Boothby for you. He picks it up, and he's instantly better than you, and he's unsufferable because of it. But an absolute talent, that George Boothby.
Yeah, and while we've been watching the leaders come around, Martin Grady still not able to take over Kavaka. We're going to switch back to P6, P5. This is Rochelle and Dubiol. Have to have Jesse pronounce that one for me here in a minute. Get the correct one on that. Back towards the mid pack, and I've been watching these guys continue to fight back in P8 and 9 as well on my replay screen. And these guys now, yeah, here they are here. Klims actually gained the position on Chamberlain again, caught up to Max Payne, and then took him in the hairpin, all within a lap. So I think Klims here has the speed advantage in this pack. And, you know, he's going to probably take off here as long as he doesn't get off track again, of course, after the little bit of an off track moment that he had as he tried to go to the outside of Max Payne through turn 11 a couple laps ago. I would not be surprised to see him up on the back. Pretty soon. Max Payne off in the background now. I think that's Chamberlain now ahead of him, and they are side by side. Never mind. Max Payne shuffled back once again. He's now behind Crozen as well. So Chamberlain and Crozen are going to pick up a position from Max Payne. And this is a bit of a self-inflicted incident here, which is just so common at Laguna Seca. It's so easy to touch that dirt and just get thrown off track and lose a couple seconds. Good hold by him, but you can see coming in through turn 5, you come on the out, you just catch, you don't apex it quite right, and you go a little wide, a little too early. You don't catch the curb on the outside, and there you go, shuffle back 2 positions, easy peasy.
Smart driving by Max there. He had an opportunity to maybe contest that with Rins, decided better of it in the chicane, or excuse me, in the elbow, and doesn't, falls back a couple of positions, but probably the smarter of the two plays. Rins watching watching Payne go through the dirt. Rins can commiserate that, as he did the very same, albeit a little bit more vigorously earlier on in the race. The fight for P1 still very much well and truly on between Kavaka and Grady. Now, I wonder if these two continue to race like this, if Taylor can close that 3.4 second gap. Remember earlier we said Taylor was the fastest car on the track? Well, that's Valentin Berrier now in the 72 Bentley, back in 4th place. Some additional housekeeping for you as well. Christoph Verstappen came down pit lane after the first or second lap. They pitted, but that was not inside the pit window. They will have to come back down pit lane again. Savalainen, who had a lot of trouble early in the race as well, has come down pit lane inside the pit window, and I find that very interesting to see if they will go the distance here.
So, I wish that we had some sort of in-car cameras that we could pull up here at RCI. Unfortunately, we don't, because we don't have everybody's, I mean, in the end, however much we like to pretend, we are sim racing, and we don't have access to
what? We're doing what?
I know, right? It's a surprise. I have never, ever seen Martin Grady concentrate this hard. I'm watching him drive behind Kavaka. And if y'all have not visited Tidge's stream, he's a great guy. Go do that. It's I'll even put a link to him in the chat, because I really do like Martin. He's a great guy. The man looks serious. I mean, I've never seen him look this serious before. And it was like I said before the race, he wants a win. And he knows that he needs to do it cleanly, and so far, and it's very typical of Martin Grady as well, he's very good at racing clean. I will hand him that. Of course, Martin Grady comes from GT Sport. That's generally, where he has spent most of his history and past driving. It's different. It's definitely a different game there. It is comparatively to ACC. But Martin Grady is a damn fine driver, even if he's not the quickest guy on the track all the time. He's a good driver. And I'm very curious to see if he can get past Kavaka. Also, man's
looking to the inside here.
No.
Can't quite get it done, but
he does have a half-tank fuel, Jesse, is the last point I was making. I think we'll be seeing tires from him.
Yeah, I think most of these drivers will be taking tires. Somebody will, mark my words, somebody will not do that. Somebody will be a contrarian here today and try and steal a win away. I don't know if that's the smarter play, as the track is warming up. Not that it needed to. The track has gone optimum, but it's also heating up. It's 37 degrees C on the track, and no real breeze to speak of. Dead still out there most of the time. But the battle for first well and truly on. A couple of other points from the field I wanted to point out. Martin Lawrence, who started 12th, was up to 7th, just got passed by Climbs now. But Martin Lawrence still up into 8th place. He continuing that pattern of racing better than he qualifies is Martin Lawrence, doing well there. And of course, the 81 of Rins Krozen, who went all the way to the back of the pack, is now back inside the top 10 as well after his earlier, we'll call that a half spin, and contact with the barrier. Well, it wouldn't be a RCI race if we didn't have a little bit of drama, and drama is what we have for Nicholas Taylor right now.
Yeah, the first penalty of the race. You know what? This one doesn't surprise me quite that much. This is where he forced the 86 off the track ever so slightly, coming out of the corkscrew. 5-second penalty will be for him. And even though Taylor has been gaining quite a bit, up to a second a lap on Grady and Kavaka, we are now going to see him have to serve a 5-second penalty in the pit stop and lose all of that time. What I'm very curious about is Kavaka losing so much time because he's having to defend so hard from Grady? Is Grady, able to be quicker than Taylor if he does get out ahead of the Ferrari? Or is Taylor just that much faster than both of them? Well, we're gonna have to find out probably after the pit stops, as Taylor did a bad lap last lap or sorry, he did a good lap last lap again. He's catching up again. He's only 3 seconds back, but add 5 seconds to the end of that by the time the pit stops comes around. Granted, we've got another 30 minutes to pit stops, give or take, before these guys are going to come in. Maybe not 30 minutes. It is a 75-minute race. Maybe about 20, 25 minutes or so before we're going to see the pit stops start coming in, and the tire stops. Whether we see tire stops or not from all the drivers will be the play. Maybe if Taylor's got a full tank of fuel, maybe we'll see him make the decision to risk it and try to just take fuel. And here is that incident once again, as the 17 just forces the 86 off track, coming nearby into Rainy Curve there. Bit of a tap. I think it's righteous penalty.
Well, a couple other things coming through. There was a previous warning for the 17 for forcing the 81 off track, that on lap 2, and no further action for contact between the 86 and the 840, but the 5-second penalty there you saw for the 17 forcing the 86 off without giving position back. I think actually the 86 was behind the 17. I'm not sure why you would give that position back. He was clearly in front there, but maybe because it was a contested position is what they mean to infer there. But either way, 5 seconds for not leaving the space, as Fabian Schmedberger would once upon a time say.
Yeah, well, we're just going to continue watching these two at the front as they are, Martin Grady just dipping and diving every which direction, trying to put him on the back foot somewhere, make that mistake so he can slide through. Coming in through turn 11 to finish lap number 13 and across the line for lap 14. And Grady's not going to get a chance down the straight here. Francisco in chat asking if the top two will change tires. We have decided that Grady will absolutely change tires, as he will.
Yeah, he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, but Kavaka, well, maybe. We don't know. I think the theory is that pretty much everybody's going to be taking tires today, but maybe some people will risk it. You know, I think that Taylor, if he did take a full tank of fuel at the start with the penalty, maybe he'll risk it and know that he needs to make up that time in the pit lane. I mean, that's a, you know, roughly 25-second gain in the pit lane by not taking tires. So maybe you risk it, maybe you don't, but it's really toasty out there. 37 on the track, 32 ambient. That'd be rough.
But you got to ask yourself, why is our pole sitter not, quicker than a car that qualified several tenths slower than him? And up the outside is Grady. Is this just trying to get beside him, pace him maybe, or could this be a pass down the corkscrew? They're going to be side by side. Grady's going to come out on top for the moment, but the track will fall away from him. Giving way is João Kavaka. Kavaka gave up the position. Martin Grady, Tidge, the king of the plebs in the 18 Bentley, has taken the lead, and he's just done him there. That was as easy as you like. That's how you draw it up. Martin Grady, your leader.
Yeah, first lead change of the race puts him back on top. We're going to catch the replay. Look at him come along the outside of the corkscrew. He gets the cut back down onto the right, gets his nose just out ahead, and Kavaka did not want to deal with it through Rainy Curve. You can see him get a little wiggle there as well. Yeah, you could see Kavaka was offline there. He was uncomfortable with his position on the track and realized that he needed to, probably hit the brakes a little bit harder than he wanted to. That caused him to go a little sideways, and that threw him back into P2. So, yeah, just a fantastic job by Grady. Nice, clean pass. It's going to put him out in front. And now we're going to see how the pace will come out of him. Taylor is only a second and a change back off of Kavaka now. But Grady, if he can get out in front and get the laps in, he knows he can burn off his tires because he's pitting for him here in about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, give or take. He can just push as long as he doesn't spin it, burn off those tires, come to the pits, get a new fresh set of those Pirellis, come back out and keep pushing. He was fighting with Taylor, of course, for those top spots in the practice session. Well, we're going to find out here in about 5 minutes, Jesse, and how much he can gap these guys, if he can at all.
Well, I think Martin Grady is going to play keep away at the front of the field, and I start to wonder if João is trying to save his tires here, save his car, and maybe save a little bit of fuel as well to try and undercut or get back in front of Grady in some way, because the speed difference here is, well, I mean, it's visual. You can see the difference in the gap between the two of them. And I thought Zhao kind of let Grady go there. It was not the case at all. Kavaka just sort of lost it on the inside there, had to gather it back up. And that little wiggle was all Grady needed to get out in front. Keep in mind, this is a three-way battle for the lead here. Nicholas Taylor is only a 1.5 seconds behind Kavaka here. And of course, Taylor, who we theorize might be faster than both of these guys, has that 5-second penalty. They're going to have to catch them all over again. And what about the fastest man on the track? What about Valentin Berrier? What about fourth place? He's catching up here. Could this be a four-way battle for the lead? But I just wonder if Kavaka is not going to take tires here. He would appear to be on a different fuel strategy at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Kavaka's struggling with grip so much here. I think, you know, potentially if he doesn't take tires, he might struggle really bad with the tire degradation there at the end of the race. I think it's a risk for him not to. I think if anybody, it's going to be Taylor, because we know that the Aston Martin is so good on tires. But who knows? I mean, they might surprise us, as these drivers tend to do, and they might try not to take tires and come on in, save the time in the pit lane. Again, it's 20 to 25 seconds depending on how much fuel you need to put in the car. Some cars will need a little bit more fuel than others to run that full 75 minutes. Some might not need fuel at all. But we're going to see a little bit of dives here from Crozen, who of course got shuffled to the back due to the early incident. He's got the pace to make his way up the field, makes it look easy on Martin Lawrence, and slides on past, continuing his charge back up to the top 5. And we're going to see if he can catch up. He's got 4 seconds to go to Climbs now in the fellow Porsche, the 329, out ahead in P7. Climbs did have a good run there through the middle of the race, passing Max Payne, who looks like he has retired from the race. In fact, I didn't catch that. Perhaps Ryan Gill might know as to what happened to Max Payne earlier in the race, or some of our stewards can report back to us as to why he might have retired, as he was running in the mid-pack. But here is Climbs all the way back over the 840 Ferrari, and they're going to be losing time that Crozen's going to catch up.
It is Porsche versus Ferrari here for 6th place. Adam trying to hold on to that position, going very defensive indeed, as Climbs here trying to find a way around, and looks a little bit more aggressive, doesn't it, that Porsche, the 329, the Orlean Verva racing car, trying to take that position behind. Look at this, just pulling up. How often do you see this? A Porsche running down the straightaway, keeping up with a Ferrari of all things. But right there, just looks like better turn in, better grip on the Porsche now, as Adam just doing everything they can defensively to stay in front. And it's a good, clean battle, this.
Yeah, and you can see as well, they're losing time, though, to Crozen. Crozen has caught up almost a half a second since coming past Martin Lawrence last lap, so he is catching these two that continue to fight. So we are going to see this be a three-man battle here, probably in the next 10 minutes or so, around the time the pit window will open for those who are pitting in the middle of the race. Of course, the pit window itself is open, but I'm referring to the actual pit window where these guys are going to come in. So Berrier still holding on to that purple lap back in P4. He is catching Nicholas Taylor ever so slightly, who is of course catching, or actually staying relatively level with Kavaka now that Kavaka is not defending against Grady, I noticed, Jesse. But Grady, as I'm looking, has continued to gap that a little bit by about another half a second and get himself a little bit of a cushion there in front of Kavaka and Taylor. We're going to see Climbs get all the way to the back of that Ferrari.
I'm laughing at Adam DeBeal because he's driving as defensive as you can possibly be. He's taking it to the apex. He's parking on the apex, which is his right, mind you. He's parking on the apex. He's doing all the things right. Got a little wide there, and it very nearly bit him, but was able to get back to the apex to close off Climbs. Yen doesn't care about Adam DeBeal, what he's doing. He's just waiting for Adam to make a slight mistake, but could it be Climbs that makes the slight mistake in a moment of frustration, perhaps, because Adam is doing an excellent job driving defensively. He's not doing anything too aggressive. He's not doing anything unsafe. He's just driving very defensively on the inside of all these corners. He's basically valet parking his car on the only spot in these corners that Jan can get by, and that's brilliant stuff. As much as we love to see passing, I got to tell you, Mike, I love to see defensive driving too.
I do as well. It's something that I thoroughly enjoy watching, because like when I'm in this situation, I prefer to be the defender, because that's something that I'm comfortable doing, is, you know, parking myself on the apex that you know, appropriately enough that the car behind can't go. You'll remember, Jesse. I remember you commented on that Bathurst where I defended against that guy for 45 minutes one time. Just park it on the, he was faster than me, but if you park on the apex in front of them and don't let them get the run coming off the corner, you can defend against guys that are, you know, a couple tenths faster than you a lap pretty easily, and that's exactly what the 840 of DeBelle is doing right now. We do notice ahead of them, by the way, Frochelle, on his lap 18, not the previous lap now, but the lap before, he had a bit of an off and lost a couple seconds. So these guys are also catching Frochelle a little bit as they approach, or as Crozon approaches them still. So we may see a four-way battle for the middle of the race here. P5, 6, 7, 8 start happening within the next few laps as slight mistakes just keep happening, which is what we said was going to happen today. We didn't expect a ton of actual incidents, but here at Laguna in the hot temperatures, you're going to see a lot of self-inflicted mistakes, and that's definitely what we're seeing. Reminiscent of Kavaka when Grady came past him out through Rainy Curve 5 laps ago.
Yeah, it's very much the case. It's not an if there's going to be a self-inflicted accident here. It is a when. It's a very difficult track. I akin this to Bathurst in a lot of ways, not because of the way you race this racetrack, but the self-inflicted accidents. It's a very difficult and tricky racetrack. I think that's why so many have an affinity for this place, and me included. I love the difficulty. It's such a quick lap around here, and you got to get everything right, and it's almost impossible to do that. And it's such a technical racetrack. It's a fast racetrack in sections, and you really have to fight for your tenths on the stopwatch. And by the way, I was paying attention. Nicholas Taylor's no longer catching João Kavaka, but Valentin Berrier is very much catching Taylor. And meanwhile, all that's going on, Harley Chamberlain going on the offensive with Martin Lawrence here.
Yeah, and Grady continues to gap Kavaka as well. He's now got that another 5 tenths up since my last check-in about 3 laps ago. So Grady definitely the quickest one overall on the track at the moment. And, you know, these guys back in P6, P7 are doing pretty quick laps in comparison, but in the end, they're still 20 seconds back. Here's the other Crozon, Verstappen back behind him. They're going to be fighting for P13, 14 near the back of the field, but either way, fighting nonetheless. And here is the only Audi on the track as well. And I'm very curious, actually. I haven't seen too many Audis racing since the patch 1.8 came out. Jesse, you've had a couple weeks worth of races that you've seen. How are the Audis doing with the new patch?
It seems to depend on what kind of track it is. I know at the Nürburgring they were very formidable, and we only had the one on the field, and that was Dario Berzaghi, the Team Ballas Esport car. But I think it will come back into prominence a little bit for some tracks. It's not dramatically better or worse than it was. It's always had certain tracks where it was fairly competitive, and I think maybe now you'll see more people come back to it, especially last week at the ring. It was not last week, but last couple of weeks, I've noticed it's been quite decent in some instances. Here, though, I fear it is struggling quite a little bit. Harley Chamberlain still fighting here, trying to get in front of Mikael Sundstrom now, who has leapfrogged him, I've just noticed. So how did Mikael Sundstrom get in front? A little bit of contact between Lawrence, perhaps. We'll see how Mikael Sundstrom gets through. Oh, Harley Chamberlain getting loose in turn 2. And that will do nothing but help. Mikael Sundstrom says thank you very much, takes a spot.
Yeah, and I'm looking back through the field because I saw a couple people lose some time. And I'm looking back, and it looks like Valentin Berrier had a bit of a moment with himself on the most previous lap. He lost about 3 seconds. Looks like he overbroke himself in the corkscrew a bit.
Barzaghi
lost
just
a little bit
lost
of time
it.
there. And Barzaghi as well. Oh, no, it's Crozen. That we're
That's
catching a
Rins
replay of here.
Crozen coming to the final turn. That's more front right damage for Rins, who has had a struggle of a day keeping it on the racetrack. And while that was happening, Dario Barzaghi went off in the corkscrew. I think that was by himself, though, or at least it appeared as much. But bad day for the Uwu can't get more pink portion.
Apparently, you could get more pink. If you've seen any FFS livery, that couldn't get more pink. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Crozen. That said, he's got his flashers on, so I think he's struggling. I think he's going to come to the pit this time, come on in, and go ahead and get that damage repaired. Maybe get his pit stop out of the way and see if he can't get back out the track and get a finish, because just not his race today. It is for Rines. However, climbs here still all over the back of this 840 Ferrari. The 840 has not made a big enough mistake for him to get through. That said, Rochelle now within striking distance of both of these guys, as he made a slight mistake as well alongside Berrier. So multiple mistakes coming out for Rochelle within the past about 8 laps or so. He's going to continue to lose time in that Honda as they approach the pit window. And we're going to see who's going to come to the pit lane here within the next 5 minutes or so through the center of the race and decide to take tires or decide to just take fuel here in the center. But for Rochelle, within striking distance, this is not boding well for the 86 Honda.
No, it certainly isn't. By the way, Beeson in the 51 Ferrari came in and did their pit stop way earlier into the race as Yan sideways there. I think those tires are done on the 329, as that was completely offline and sideways. Something amiss with that car, and I think it might be the rubber.
Ryan's is actually in the chat as he's sitting in the pit lane, saying that the races here at RCI just not going well for him lately. After watching the race today for him, I've got to agree, not the best race for him today. And it's a struggle. I mean, you're at a Porsche, you're at Laguna, it's hot. While the Porsche is quick at Laguna, it's not the most stable, and when you've got one of the most unstable tracks here, very difficult to keep a hold of that thing. But I'm sure Ryan's will pick that back up for next season through the next year, shake himself off, come on back, put on a show for the next season. A couple pit stops coming in. Climbs is in the pit lane, decided that he did not want to be on the back of that 840 Ferrari, makes it pit a little bit early, and I'm very curious to see if that undercut will work for him, as Mikael Sundstrom going way deep on Martin Lawrence here, almost tapped the back of him, had to run wide through the Andretti hairpin, and coming into turn 3 now has a little bit of a gap and is not quite as close to the back of him. But that Mercedes is looking a lot stronger than Lawrence is. I wonder if Lawrence is actually having tire issues, which surprises me a bit in the Aston Martin. As we know, the Aston, excellent on its tires generally, but the nearly on pace 899 looking pretty quick here through the center of the race.
If I had to guess, luckily I don't have to put money on it, I think Martin Lawrence is driving to a number. I think he's trying to get something out of this stand. I don't really think there's anything particularly wrong with that car, but just the way he's racing other people leads me to believe that he wants to be left alone. He's working on a strategy. I haven't seen him go out of his way or anything to try and make a pass or to make it difficult or even to extend track limits at all, as Adam Dubell in pit lane with Nicholas Taylor, in fact. So Taylor will serve as 5-second penalty, and Dubell in as well. Those are your first of the top 5 to come in, top 5 or so to speak. And like you said, Mike Jones, here we go. Very interesting as Mikael Sundstrom going down the inside of Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence obliging, and that's exactly what I was talking about right there. I feel like Lawrence is just trying to hit his strategy.
I think so. I think Lawrence is playing to his strategy at this point. The 899 slides on pass. I'm watching the 840 and the 329. Dubell just dropped his jacks on the pit. He's going to come on out and Climbs is coming in through turn 11 right now. This is going to put them dangerously close to each other once again. But I think Climbs might have the edge on the 840 possibly here, and might end up jumping him in the pit lane by pitting a lap early. We'll see. The inside line coming out of the pit is the faster line here. You can see the Ferrari there on the inside. Will Climbs have the run coming out of the corner? He won't. And so no change here. If anything, Climbs lost about a 2/10 or so off the back of him. So unfortunately for the 329, he's got to now still try to get past this 840. Both of them on new sets of tires. But both of them, Jesse Lee, 104.8 and 104.6 on their pit stops. So indeed, almost, oh no, there's the Ferrari off. The Ferrari is off out in front as they come in through the corner, and that's going to throw him
he's going to be off again a little bit. Oh,
Yeah.
That was so dangerous.
So dangerous. What a catch by him. Usually if you hit the sand like that, you were gone. But the 840 keeping it steady on those cold tires. And now the problem is he's got dirty tires and cold tires. And this 329 has got his tires ready to go already. All over the back of him as they come in through turn 10. He's going to look for that outside line probably through turn 11. Looks to the inside, isn't able to take it hard on the brakes into turn 11. Tries to get a bit of a cutback. He's got the nose under him though. Here it is. Not quite though. Never mind. That 840 just gets the grip coming out of the corner. And the 329 is going to have to chase him down the front straight. Can he V it out in the Andretti hairpin and take him?
I don't think he will, but he is giving it everything he possibly can. DeBell here trying to get his tires up to temperature, and Climbs with his tires already up to temperature, sliding there. That will be a little bit of breathing room for the 840 of Adam DeBell, who very nearly lost that position, but inevitably gets to keep it for the moment. He's got to get his head back on straight, get the tires warmed up, and get them cleaned off, as it clearly was taking a little bit longer for the Ferrari's tires to come up to temp than it did the Porsche. But now things, for the moment at least, seem to have equalized. But a very scary lap for Adam there, as he had to catch that car 2 or 3 times. He also had to park it on the apex a couple times too. But a successful defense, at least for right now. Excellent driving there.
Meantime, while these guys are still fighting on the track, I do want to point out your leader, Martin Grady, did come into the pit lane and is back out on the track. Sundstrom in the pit lane right now. Martin Grady is pretty close, actually. Yeah, I'm looking. Savalainen, Jesse Lee, only 7.5 seconds behind Martin Grady. So Savalainen, who of course had the very bad start, running off, having to pit on lap 6. He's actually looking pretty good right now, only 7 seconds back. He might have made up an absolute ton of time just being out of traffic, has Savalainen in that 100 Mercedes. I'm very curious to see what happens when the rest of the top 5 pit. Kavaka, Frochelle, when they come into the pit lane, where is Savalainen going to come out? Because he's already ahead of Berrier, who was in P4, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, he was in P4.
Yeah, it's a good point you make, Mike, because think about this. Savalainen came in really early, like you said. What is his tires going to look like at the end? We'll have to see if he's been able to manage it. But I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think Savalainen's benefit here was how many battles have we seen? We've seen first and second battle each other, second or third and fourth. We saw a battle for 6th place. Savalainen was on his own stretch of racetrack. He wasn't involved in any of that, and that means he wasn't losing precious seconds. And I think he's made up all of that time just based on him not being in any sort of turmoil or battle. And of course, because of that, he has gained a lot of time, but I just worry about the final 10 minutes of this race. What is those tires going to look like? By the way, Jan has not given up trying to race DeBell here, as Climbs is all the way back on to DeBell now as this battle continues to rage. And I'm not sure we are going to get a definitive answer for quite some time between these two.
Jesse Lee. I have a confession.
Go.
I curse Nicholas Taylor.
Oh no, you have done. Nicholas Taylor has retired from this race. He's the second driver to retire today. All he had to do was finish better than
P15.
16th, and he would be guaranteed second place in the championship. And well, he has become our second retirement. So on a second consecutive week here at RCI, you wouldn't know this, Mike Jones, but for GT4, I did it to a driver. I said all they had to do was finish the race. They didn't finish the race, and we had a surprise champion in GT4 AM because of it. 51-point gap. All they had to do was finish the race. They didn't finish the race, and the second place driver got 57 points, which was enough to win the championship. And I think you've done it today.
I have. Taylor unfortunately had to, he posted in the chat that apparently he got his vaccine today or yesterday, and was just too tired to finish the race. So he will sacrifice down to at least P4. That said, I want to catch up on what's going on, minus the Climbs Dubai battle here. We have seen more pit stops happen. Kavaka did come into the pit lane. He did not take tires. So, as I think it was as you called it, Jesse, Kavaka decided on the fuel-only strategy because he knew that he was slower than Grady, which may explain why he slowed up once Grady got past him a little bit, because he needed to save a little fuel and he didn't want to burn his tires off trying to catch him. So that gained him, 16 seconds in the pit. He looks like he had a little bit of a slow pit stop. Maybe repaired a bit of damage or something. Maybe missed his pit box. Who knows? That slow pit stop might cost him overall. Savalainen had a 40.5 second pit stop, who of course pitted on lap 6. Kavaka had a 47.8. So that means, about 6-7 seconds that he lost there in comparison, but he's significantly ahead of Martin Grady and the rest of the field at the moment, about 15 seconds with 30 minutes to go. He's got to make it a half second a lap up to the back of Kavaka and then pass him through the remainder of this race to get past. And it was so difficult to pass him to begin with. Can he do it a second time?
Look what's happened. Look what's happened on the scoring pylon. Nicholas Taylor has rejoined us. No doubt. Now, here's what I think's happened, even if Nicholas won't agree. I think he heard us because I don't know if Nicholas had done the math before coming into today.
He's got to finish 85% of the race distance, so he's a little bit.
That's right.
That's tight. I don't know that he can make it.
He's got to finish. So for those of you that are uninitiated, the way it works in RCI, to score points in any given race, you have to complete 85% of the race. So Nicholas Taylor has to do that, but he has reconnected, and he hasn't left pit lane.
Though, yeah.
So I don't know exactly what's going on, but certainly Taylor, who had left us, has come back for the time being, but hasn't left the pit lane. But you know what? I will say this about Taylor. Good for him, getting vaccinated, and he may not win the race today, but he might win a healthier future.
That's the hope here. Of course, I've just scheduled in to go get my booster shot here pretty soon after I move. So that'll be interesting. I didn't have too many effects off the first two doses. A little bit of sleepiness, but we'll see what happens after the booster shot, because it was generally how they're doing it here in the U.S. and Taylor now leaving the pits, by the way. So curious to see. Oh no, he stopped. He was considering leaving, then maybe not. But here in the U.S. at least, they're recommending you get a different type than you got the first time. So we'll see how I react to the second one. But climb still all over the back of the 840 Ferrari here. This is just kind of the battle on track at the moment. Grady is catching Crozen and subsequently Frochelle a bit, but he's got a little bit left to get up to the back of them. And of course, Lawrence and Crozen, the only cars out on the track who have not pit. I imagine at this point, Jesse, that they will be taking fuel only if they have a pit by this time. And Nicholas Taylor has indeed left the server one more time, perhaps realizing that he was not going to be able to complete 85% of the lap distance. So he's out again. The 329 Porsche, well, he's got a Ferrari in front of him, and I'm sure he's sick of seeing it, but he is still stuck there with 27 minutes to go, as I can hear Jesse Lee cracking up beside me.
Folks, a little peek behind the curtain here at RCI TV. Anytime Mike Jones and I are in the booth, it's always a bad decision. I'm just happy to have Ryan Rai Gill with us today to kind of keep us on schedule, on task, because Mike Jones, he cracks me up like nobody else. But Martin Grady here, going to try and get around Minnow Crozen, and won't even be contested, Minnow letting him go around. And Martin Lawrence out front has yet to pit. I know Kavaka and Frischel did not take tires. Martin Grady, this man, has taken tires, and he is trying to hunt down the front couple. And I've been doing the maths, as you might expect. And, well, Martin Grady's going to get there. It's going to be a question of what does Frischel and Kavaka do once Martin Grady gets there. Go completely defensive and guard the inside line, I would reckon.
I don't even think it was a question he was going to get there. He's gained like 10 seconds in the past few laps. He's only 4 seconds, 4.5 seconds behind Kavaka now, and just slightly behind Frischel. So, these guys are going to be much, much slower than Grady. But again, can he get past them? That's going to be the question. And at this rate, we're going to find out in, about 3 minutes, because Grady is absolutely flying.
It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out, and will Grady get aggressive? I have seen Tidge get aggressive on cars that he knows he's faster than before, and it's interesting to see him when he came in to RCI Racing. He was very timid. He didn't want to put a foot wrong. He didn't want to anger anybody, but slowly but surely you saw him get a little bit more confident and get aggressive in certain situations. Today, I think you might see that. Man's chasing the win. Man's hungry. He wants that W, but so does Kavaka and Frischel.
Yeah, I mean, Frischel and Kavaka, of course, are fighting Grady for points here as well. If we go back to the points leaderboard for just a second, Kavaka, 198 points, Frischel, 195, Martin Grady, 185. Now, just for reference, the gap between P1 and P2 in points is 7, and the gap between P1 and P3 in points is 12. So that means that, Frischel actually a little bit of a dive there on the Ferrari. Not able to quite get it done, though, through the Andretti hairpin, but he's at least showing that he's quicker and wants to get on pass. The point I was making, though, is that this means that if Kavaka finishes P3, as we're catching a replay here from Verstappen, who is, of course, the Bentley in the back. That's Harley Chamberlain out ahead. Coming into the corkscrew. Doesn't look like quite anything happened here. Just kind of bottomed
out there, but yeah, nothing too.
Ryan is.
I wonder if him bottoming out triggered a report because he hit the bottom of the track so hard.
No, Ryan says it was an overtake. So perhaps before that clip started, because ACC's overtake clips sometimes don't work. Maybe Chamberlain got out ahead of Verstappen just before that. And in fact, that is indeed what happened. As I'm pulling my replay here on my side, it looks like that Chamberlain was behind the lap before. And they got past, it looks like, through turn 3. So it was a little bit before that.
Well, the pass made by Harley Chamberlain over Verstappen, who has had a whole host of issues today, has the 747 Bentley, but despite all that, not running last, up into 12th place now. So not a total loss for Christoph Verstappen at this juncture. Keep in mind, they came in incredibly early as well. So early, in fact, that their pit stop didn't even count because they weren't inside the pit window. Well, folks, this is the main event. This is what you've all come to see. Cam Tidge, the man that I accidentally started calling King of the Plebs, Martin Grady, is trying to get back to the front of the field. Well, Martin Lawrence still has yet to pit, but João Cavaca and Herbert Fischel are fighting for the lead of the cars that have, and now Martin Grady has erased a 5-second gap and is on the back of them. It is a three-way battle for what will likely be the win here today. Mike Jones, if you're João Cavaca, how wide can you make that Ferrari?
I don't think wide enough for Tiff to keep Tidge behind for 22.5 minutes when he's this much quicker. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, but hey, I'm happy to be proved wrong. Of course, Cavaca, as long as he finishes in third place, even if Martin Grady takes P1, he still beats Grady on points, and he'll only be fighting Froschel for those final points. I'm actually doing the math on that right now at the moment, Jesse, so I'm curious to take a look at that and see here in a moment. But Grady all over the back of this Honda, making him run a little bit wide as they're now distancing a little bit off the Ferrari. This is working in Cavaca's favor so far, but I just don't think there's enough time left on the clock for them to make a difference here, to be honest.
Well, right now, João Cavaca is the world's biggest Herbert Fischel fan. He loves the 86. He loves the Honda. He's always loved NSX, even though he's in a Ferrari, because that is the only thing standing between him and Martin Grady. Grady playing this very calmly, had an opportunity to go up the inside, did, but unfortunately turn 2 is a right-hander, and that allowed Fischel back through. Everybody being nice and cordial. Every lap, though, Mike Jones, that Grady doesn't gain on Cavaca here is another lap that Cavaca doesn't have to burn extra tire, doesn't have to overdrive the car, and that could be beneficial, but is it going to prove a bridge too far? We'll have to find out. 21 minutes to play, 40 degrees C, the track temperature, so certainly not cooling off anytime soon. In fact, going the other way, and it's going to come down to what we suspect are these three drivers. Cavaca is only about 9 seconds behind Martin Lawrence, who is still yet to pit. Lawrence and Minnow Croson, the only drivers who have yet to pit.
Yeah, and they're at this point, of course, going to pit just as late as possible. And I was just doing the math on this just to verify. If Grady gets out into P1 and wins, Cavaca takes P3, Froschel takes P2. Grady actually does not gain any positions in the points at all. What will have to happen for Grady to gain positions here, assuming they finish P1, 2, 3, is that Grady needs to finish P1 and Froschel needs to finish P3, and then Grady will pick up the position on Froschel. But either way, no matter what, because of the pole position that Cavaca got, Grady cannot beat him in the points unless we see the fastest lap, which we did just see come through just a couple minutes ago from Grady. That will actually shake it up a little bit. I was not adding that in my calculations. So Grady did just pick up the fast lap within the last couple laps here again, and that might upset Cavaca depending on how they finish this. That gets him an extra few points. This is going to be such an interesting and tight race, and I'm sure your calculator is going to be going a mile a minute here the next 20 minutes, Jesse.
I'm wearing out the solar power battery in mine right now. I'm trying to, it's trying to die on me here, but yeah, it's very close stuff as we get closer to the end, and I'm actually going to give up on doing the math right now because this is nowhere near where all three of these are going to finish. There's another possibility here that we haven't really discussed, and it's only because they've kept it so clean all race. What if that happens right there? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody dips a tire off the track. That's going to do nothing but let Martin Grady through. Is he going to force the 86 off? What will the stewards think about that? I think that was as fair as it could have been. And now Martin Grady is past Herbert Fischel. João Cavaca is next in line. Fischel just running a little bit off the track, self-inflicted there. It might there have been a little contact there. I don't know. I think that might have been clean.
I don't think there was any contact there at all. I think Froschel just ran a little bit wide. Grady took the advantage, just like he did earlier when he went past Cavaca the first time, and he brought it home back up into P2 overall once we count out Lawrence and his pit stop. So this means This means that Grady now has to get past Kavaka, and at that point he will pick up the points on Frochelle. So far, Grady is not able, even with the fastest lap, to get a points position ahead of Kavaka, or sorry, ahead of Frochelle, unless he at least puts Kavaka between them. So that is the final math. The points, by the way, if it finished as such, would put Grady and Frochelle exactly tied if Frochelle took P2. So that says enough right there. Grady not only needs to pass Kavaka, he needs to keep Frochelle behind Kavaka to pick up the points. He will still lose to Kavaka no matter what, unless he finishes back in P4 or worse, which I don't think is going to happen at this point unless there's a big incident. But Grady, if he can keep this clean, he can at least pick up the points from Frochelle, finish up in a P7 overall in the points, and get the victory on the race, which I'm going to be honest, Jesse Lee, I think that's more what he's concerned about at the moment. It's not the points. He wants the victory. He wants that win. He wants to be on the top step of the podium. No matter what happens, that's where Martin Grady is going to be here in the next 17 minutes in his mind.
Well, Martin Grady has had some decent races this season, but they've not rendered any podium results. He's had issues with other cars. He's had issues with his strategy on a couple of occasions, but he's always been in the conversation. And today he could be the conversation as he makes a clean as you like pass on João Kavaka, taking second place. Tidge up to second. Not even a little bit of fight from João right there.
No, I don't think he even had a chance to. His tires are so worn at this point. He's been on these things for 60 minutes just about out here in these really hot temperatures. The track temperature is up to 41°C. These tires are boiling at this point. The ambient's at 34°C. That has picked up, 9 degrees on the asphalt temperature since the start of the race. That really shows you just how hot it would be if we were going to race further into the afternoon out here in the California sun today. I'm glad our comms box has air conditioning, because otherwise Jesse and I would be sweatier than we already are watching these guys out here race. I can't even imagine them inside the car at this point. Climbs still all over the back of the 840 Ferrari. Tries desperately to get beside him through the corkscrew, not able to get it done. Out through Rainy Curve, turn number 9. Not really a good place to pass for this Porsche at the moment. Here comes turn 10 and then in through turn 11. Not going to get it done this lap. Grady already has gapped Kavaka up in the front of the field by 1.5 seconds just about. Frochelle hanging back into P3, which is exactly what Grady needs in order to pick up that position on the points as well. Climbs looking to the inside briefly there, just showing in the mirror, hoping maybe that DeBell will just miss his brakes ever so slightly and he can get down on the inside, but it's not enough. Climbs actually misses a little bit of the brakes, falls back maybe a few hundredths of a second off the corner. These guys, dude, these guys, don't get me wrong, the Grady Kavaka fight was really great through the first part of the race, all the way up for P1, P2. These guys are the fight that I have been most excited for through the race, though.
Adam DeBell, the last time coming up to the corkscrew, just kept going left as he got to the corkscrew, letting Yan know you are not taking the inside here. And it was so polite, but it was also such a door slammed in the face at the same time. It's the politest door slam I had ever seen a lap ago. That's what I was laughing about, as Adam was just trying to get Yan to understand, you're not taking the inside here. You're just not doing it. But they've raced so politely, but so aggressively at the same time. The tension is palpable here. You can almost cut it with a knife between these two. Who's going to come out in front? Is it going to be DeBell or Climbs? Well, they've got 14 minutes to sort it out. And like you said, Mike, these two have been just at each other this entire second half of the race. It's for 7th place, but they don't care. I always say once you get halfway into the race, you know what you're fighting for. They will have known that they're fighting each other for this one particular spot. And they're doing an excellent job at that, racing one another. This might end up being a top 5 spot after the final 2 cars pit, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm also keeping an eye on Kavaka and Froschel. Froschel has caught up to the back of Kavaka, almost got under him into turn one, but Kavaka was able to shut the door just quickly enough on this lap to keep him behind for the moment, which is working in Grady's favor, both in terms of just gapping P2, what is effectively P2 and P3, once Lawrence pits, as well as just for the overall points lead that he should have over Froschel if he doesn't get the pass done. Grady's also just catching Martin Lawrence, who still has his pit stop to do. He's got at least 40 seconds to stay in that pit lane before he's going to come out, which means that Grady effectively is about a half a lap ahead of some of the cars that are down near the bottom of the field. Here's the big defensive move coming in from Kavaka all the way down to the bottom of the left side of the track. He's gonna get the overlap there as they come into turn one, but the Ferrari just a little bit better on the brakes. The outside of Andretti hairpin, difficult to pass on here, especially with the hot temperatures. Going offline will be very difficult. And Kavaka, sorry, you're right. Turn two. Ryan Gill is yelling at me. It's turn two. I always do that. I got used to it at Kyalami, but turn one is the kink. Same thing as Kyalami, but turn two is the Andretti hairpin. It's not turn one.
Wow,
And,
I don't know what you did to Ryan Gill, but he's all over you right now.
It's my circuit, Ryan. I've never actually been to Laguna. I might live an hour and a half from it. I've never been to Laguna, actually.
Have you never been to Laguna?
No, I was gonna go the past 2 years, but you like physically have been unable to do so because COVID. I've been to Sonoma quite a bit, but not Laguna.
Can I tell you one of the weirdest things about this track that you wouldn't expect unless you've been here, folks? It's in a bowl. I know it may not look like that to you here, but this track sits in like a natural bowl. So the sound, no matter where you're at the track, reverberates, and it is just the most unholy noise when cars are racing around here.
Interesting. That is that's really interesting. Well, I'm hoping to go out there, probably in this next year. I'm hoping to go out there for a little bit of work. Actually, now that I work for AK, might be like, hey, I really hear we need some extra help out at some of the U.S. tracks, and maybe take a little bit of tour of the U.S. For the next year. But we'll find out. Climbs though, still trying desperately to stay all over the back of this 840. And I'm keeping an eye up at the top of the field. A little bit of a contact between Froschel and Berrier. Berrier caught up. Ryan, let's take a look at this replay, as I'm curious what happened directly before that with this contact. So Berrier caught up. Froschel on the outside of Kavaka there. Berrier shoves the nose under. And they're going to come in through turn four, and Berrier contact, but Froschel able to stick it out ahead. So actually Berrier has made up this time as well, Jesse. He's now got himself in the fight, and this could have absolutely massive points implications for Grady. If Berrier can get past both of these guys and finish P2 with Kavaka P3, Grady, I do believe, might very well take 2 points positions from these guys. So this is throwing a huge wrench into the plans of Froschel and Berrier. Froschel and Kavaka. Berrier is not fighting these guys for overall points at the moment, just for track position. He's too far back for that to happen. So very interesting. Well, hang on.
Oh, Froschel going down the inside, trying to take João Kavaka's spot. He's going to be on the outside of turn three. What can Valentin Berrier do? Will there be more contact? If there's not contact, they couldn't be any more close. I think there was. Up the inside, Berrier trying it again. Second time lucky. He gets it to stick this time. Valentin Berrier up a spot. Herbert Froschel down a spot. What can he do? Berrier looking to the inside, to the outside, getting crossed up, down to the inside there is Froschel. Froschel trying to get the spot back. He can't. Berrier right on the back of the Ferrari. This is as close as you like coming into the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, and again, Berrier, I did confirm Berrier not fighting these guys for points. So he is just up here just using and abusing the track position, wants to get up into the podium. He's now on the podium and is not done yet. He's got the pace to get past Kavaka as well. Reminder, Berrier is one of the cars that did pit for tires, so he is that much quicker than the rest of these guys out on the track at the moment. Grady coasting to an easy victory at this point, and it's Kavaka with the hard... look at that as Frochelle flies up to the back. Kavaka needs the hard defense against Barrier here to keep Frochelle behind him. That way that he doesn't lose that position, but it might be that Barrier is just able to drive around him on the outside through turn 2 here. There he is. They're both going to V out the corner. Frochelle using the opportunity to get down on the inside. They're now going to be side by side coming in through turn 3. Frochelle now looking to the outside, not able to get enough braking down. It looked like he got a little bit loose, wiggled a little bit coming out of the hairpin. That's going to put him back again. But Kavaka just doing an excellent job. He is absolutely cheering Barrier on at the moment. He put himself between him and Frochelle. Frochelle had the pace to get ahead of Kavaka based on the fact that Frochelle kept catching him and was just looking for that opportunity. And at this point, if Kavaka can keep Barrier between them, easy victory for him ahead of Frochelle. But 7.5 minutes left. We've got 5 or so laps to go. It's going to be difficult to keep this guy ahead of him, or behind him rather, with those fresh tires.
Valentin Barrier trying to go from 4th place up to 2nd. He's already on the podium, but he's on the 3rd step. The view's a little better from the 2nd step. I am afraid the top of the mountain is going to be a little bit too far. Around the outside for Barrier, I don't think he can make this stick. Or maybe he can. He's right there. Contact there. A little bit of poking the nose in, a fender rubbing. And here it is. 3 wide. Is it going to be? It's a crash. Valentin Barrier off in turn 1. Contact between Frochelle and Barrier as they go 3 wide into 1.
Yeah, I'm curious to catch a little bit of that replay. Can we catch the replay from Frochelle's camera there, Ryan? Do we have the availability to do that? I'm curious to see where his nose was at. There we go. Okay, so his nose, ooh, that was so tight. It's so difficult to push 3 wide there. Frochelle tried to get his nose in there. Whether the stewards decide that that's a Frochelle fault or not will be interesting. The stewards are going to definitely have their work cut out for him with that incident, deciding who's at fault. It could have huge implications for the championship fight with Grady. But that said, Frochelle now 2 seconds behind with a touch and nose damage. He's got 6 minutes to catch up to Kavaka and get out ahead. Barrier, has fallen back quite a distance as well. 2.5 seconds before he's going to get up to the back of Frochelle once again. He's got enough time to do it, but with the damage, can he? He just wore his tires down as well. His climbs is cutting the corkscrew. They're desperate to get as much time as possible. Got a little bit of a wiggle, and that's not going to do him any favors. If he keeps cutting the track like that, the race control, in-game race control, will give him a drive-through for cutting the track, but he's just desperate to get past this 840. And by the way, Jesse Lee, it is indeed a fight for P5. As you said, Martin Lawrence did cycle out to P8 behind Savalainen.
It's very much the case, and the only incident that we had up until the 3 wide spin was the 72 and the 86. That was no further action for minor contact. I know the stewards are looking at the spin on the front straightaway turn 1 area, and we await what they have to say about that. Meanwhile, this is indeed a fight for the top 5. Adam Dubell and Jan Climbs have been in this configuration for nearly 45 minutes today, and Climbs has played it as good as he possibly can, but the sand is running out in the hourglass. He has to make this pass at some point. For my money, Climbs has looked a little bit more aggressive, but Adam Dubell has done such a great job at being defensive, but safely defensive, and driving just as hard as he has to do, that this is going to come down to it. And if Dubell catches Barrier now, what will this do for this fight? I don't think he'll quite get there. 4 minutes to go, just about 2-3 laps for these two drivers to decide P5 here today.
Watching these guys come through the final corner, just a few laps remaining. It's going to tick over to 4 minutes to go as they cross the line. Minute 22, minute 25, depending on how fast these guys are going around the track with these tires this deep into the race. And we're going to see 3 to 4 laps before the end, depending on where Martin Grady finishes on the track. Martin Grady, well ahead of Kavaka at this point, has the purple lap pretty well locked in. I don't think Valentin Barrier is going to be able to take that back over. He's a little too damaged. The tires are going to be a little bit too off at this point to really make up another purple lap. So Grady, 13.5 seconds ahead, definitely making that tire stop work for him. Overall, Berrier 1.6 behind Frochelle, and Frochelle has not caught Kavaka anymore since the incident with Berrier a few minutes ago. We are awaiting the final result from the stewards on what that incident in turn 1 will be, to see if Frochelle or Berrier get themselves a penalty either or, which will of course again have huge points implications for the currently running top 3, Grady, Kavaka, Frochelle. Because if Frochelle gets shuffled back a couple more positions, it's going to make an easy victory for Grady to get at least 1 points position. Dubel here though, still fighting against the Porsche back behind. Duvell and Climbs, again, as Jesse said, side by side pretty much the entire race. And he's going to get to the outside a little bit there, but it's not where you want to be, you know, on the outside of the Andretti hairpin. They've almost caught up to Berrier, I've noticed, who's back on the back of Rochelle. And I've looked at the points real quick on Dubell and Climbs, by the way. Dubell's pretty much got it locked in versus Climbs, so they're just having a fun time.
Yeah, they sure are. Well, Climbs wants to make a point here and get by Dubell here in the final couple of laps. Just about 2 left to go. Still awaiting the verdict on the Frochelle Berrier incident. I can't imagine Berrier did anything incorrect there, was just trying to make a pass. But then again, I've been wrong before where the stewards have come in and said,
Head
well,
steward
actually,
just brought it in, Jesse.
The car has moved. Here we have it. No further action for the takeout of the 72. The 72 turns in on the Honda. So there you have. I think he means he turned out on him, because you can't turn in whenever you're driving down the road. But I know what he means. He means that the Bentley was the one turning that caused that incident. And that's exactly what I was just saying. I am often wrong about that, because you assume a car getting span out of the middle is going to be the car that spanned them's fault. But that is not always the case. It's not the case here. So verdict in, no further action for that 3-way incident into turn 1. Mike Jones, your thoughts?
I mean, it's tough. I actually think that that's fair. I mean, I think that the Porsche definitely, we were looking at it, right, is like, does he have that overlap? That's why I wanted to see that on board from Ryan, and it looked like he did have that little bit of an overlap, and the stewards, you know, reviewed it from the various angles and decided that was the case. So fair no penalty rather for the 72 and 86.
Yes,
fair
indeed.
call, as Martin Grady is going to come through Rainy Curve for the second to last time. He's going to do one more lap. 20 seconds left on the clock. Here comes turn 10, and then down into the final turn 11 here at Laguna. 15 seconds ahead as he starts the final lap. Martin Grady with an absolutely beautiful race today overall here at Laguna Seca. He desperately wanted the win. He wanted to get up at the top of the podium, crosses the line with 3 seconds to go, forces these guys to continue fighting through the middle of the field.
Oh,
All
this
of
is
these guys
dangerous.
are fighting. Yeah, back marker, that's Beeson. They're diving, trying to get out of the way of these guys, and just
Oh, that
sure
could have
where
been
to go.
huge.
Left, right, left, right, left, right. But fortunately for the 840, did not get enough in the way of the Porsche to have anything happen. The Porsche going to look to the outside of the hairpin again, but it's just not going to do anything. He's going to try and get a run off the corner, but he's not going to make it happen here. This Ferrari is just sticking it down. There's Climbs off the track,
I think
slowing
that's
him
it.
down, and that might be it right there. Exactly, Jesse Lee. This 840, I will hand it to him. This 840, such a fantastic job at keeping the mistakes to a minimum through this race, as we're seeing Barzaghi there pull off.
Oh,
to the
meanwhile,
side.
Kavak and Frochelle and Berrier are all back together now.
Yep.
All 3 of those cars are back together. If you're wondering about some of the other contacts that we may have saw, they've all been deemed racing incidents. So only the 1 penalty this race. But for Martin Grady, the man they call Tidgeny, who made a name for himself on GT Sport, has started racing ACC. It won't be his first win in RCI competition, but it is his first this season. Martin Grady wins the season finale here at Laguna Seca. What an excellent drive. Side by side for second place, Kavaka and Frechelle. It looks like Kavaka's going to get it, and Barrier on the back of them, but they're going to finish as they raced in those final laps. Kavaka, Frechelle, and Barrier come to the line, and a spin here at the finale. DeBell does hold off Climbs in the end. Savaline and Lawrence, Sundstrom, Chamberlain is going to be your top 10. It's very close between Sundstrom and Lawrence. A little bit of the dirt for Sundstrom, and Lawrence is going to finish, as these two are friends after all, and what a spirited race it was. Chamberlain rounding out the top 10. Minnow, Crozen, Verstappen, Barzaghi, and Beeson, your finishers here today. Folks, never tune out of an RCI race in the halfway point. It always ends like this.
Absolutely beautiful race from all these guys. We knew, Jesse, coming into this, we were like, there's only about 17 cars on the track for this final race, but it doesn't matter. We're going to see a fantastic race no matter what happens here. And it was an absolutely fantastic race all the way through. The battle between DeBell and Climbs, the battle between Kavaka, Frechelle, and Grady was fantastic to watch for the whole 75 minutes. Grady taking the lead and basically never giving it back up, besides for when Kavaka pit for fuel only. And Grady just ate up the time, passed him back in a few laps, and it was an easy win for him off the tires. Tires definitely the call here today at Laguna Seca. You made the early call on that, Jesse Lee, and it ended up being true. And that said, Mr. Martin Grady, who I've summoned into the comms box here, nice and sweaty, but you look very relaxed there for about the last 15 minutes, Titch.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, thank goodness for that, because I've not set anything up. I wasn't expecting this. Yeah, I actually lost focus on the last few laps, because I was just like, let's look at the mini-map and see what's happening with that big train of cars. But
there was a lot happening. A lot.
Yeah. But I don't know why. Like here, Zolder, I seem to do very well at. Like last season I raced when it was just a solo racing in GT3. I was the fastest Bentley here last time and one of the fastest FR cars. So I don't know why I'm good here, but I just am.
These FR cars at Laguna can be pretty good, and of course we didn't have the entire field here today, but you were definitely not only the fastest FR car, you were the fastest car on the track. Like you hit your fastest lap there through the middle of the race, man. So congratulations.
Oh, cheers! Well, I said to chat, let's get a 22. So I was like, okay, let's first one push, and then I was like, okay, let's really push, and then we just came out with a 22.7 out of nowhere. So I was like, happy days.
So Jesse, you've been watching Grady here for the entire season. I mean, for him to come out on top.
Yeah, Martin, I just got to say, congratulations on winning it. It looked like it could have been on the cards a couple of times this season. It just didn't play out that way. But you end the season with another victory here in RCI competition and a Friday championship series at that. And what a way to end the season. You had nothing in your stats column all season. You put a 1 in basically all of them here today. How does that feel ending the championship, winning?
It feels good. I came into this one again. I was like, I can win this, but then work's been like really busy, so I've not been able to practice that much. But then when I came to this and I jumped in a practice lobby, I was like, I seem quite quick here again. So I was like, okay, maybe we've got a chance here. So I set up the stream, and then I was like, okay, right, let's go for it. And then quality happened. I was like, okay, yeah, definitely got on for the cards. And then literally turn 1, when the Honda just went out wide a little bit, I was like, oh, thank you. That's what I needed. Because that Honda is rapid down the straight. So I was just like, oh, this is going to be hard.
By the way, you beat that Honda by 1 point for the championship.
Oh, yes!
You were racing him for points as well.
Yep. You needed him to stay behind Kavaka to beat him. So Kavaka still beat you by 3 points, but Frechelle lost to you by 1 point after all said and done. So that fight had huge implications, especially when Barrier caught them.
Well, I didn't know that. I must admit, the one thing I try and do is I try to be the best Bentley or the best manufacturer I'm in, and I go to best like drivetrain, so FRMR, and then it's like the overall championship. So my goal was lead Bentley. So I don't know if I've got that, but hopefully I have.
Martin.
You are the best Bentley, and you ended up the fast front engine car as well, actually, because Nicholas Taylor had a DNF today, which does put you ahead of him as well. So yes, indeed, Tidge, on the first two counts, best Bentley and best FR.
I am over the moon then. I mean, I'm not that I'm trying to give myself a shout out, but if you check the stream afterwards, I was singing at the end.
I heard you.
What were you singing though, Martin?
It's a song that we all started, and it's like a bit of a meme in Gran Turismo with the old Tidge is on fire, basically. So free from desire, but Tidge is on fire.
Well, I gotta say,
Ryan was singing in our chat, so it's fine.
It does happen. Look, your fans travel well, Tidge. They always have, and they're always a delight to have. And just the amount of people in our chat. Well done, Tidge. Well done, Pleb. Well done, Martin, the mighty pleb, fastest pleb in the West, or as I call you, the king of the plebs. And I think you've shown that today. Just an absolute monumental job. I do have one final question. You sat behind Zhao at the beginning of that race for a very long time. What were you thinking about being so close to the leader?
Well, what I was trying to do is trying to work out the weaknesses. Because I know like the problem with the Bentley is it's so slow out of the corners that it's like, oh, I've got to make a dive somewhere basically, so, or wait for a mistake. So I was actually thinking about turn one, and I had a look a couple of times, and you'll have seen that, like I was just edging closer, which is why in the second half of the race I knew I could get him at turn one, which is why I sort of went for it, because I was so much better on the brakes. But at the time I was getting a little bit frustrated because I knew I needed to go because I was going to change tires. I'm assuming Kavaka literally was going to do the opposite of what I did, basically, and chose to do that.
We were theorizing it the whole race as well. It was who's going to take tires, who's going to not. I think Jesse was the first one that said, I don't think Kavaka is going to take tires, but based on especially when you got past him, and he didn't, and it ended up costing him. Tires ended up being the call today. So you not only had the pace, but you had the strategy call.
That's unlike me, by the way. I'm not very good with strategy.
Well, what a fantastic race, Tidge. Congratulations. You're the 5th different winner this season. You end the season on a high and a well-deserved win in the Bentley today.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome. Thank you for setting up again. I love this championship. It's great. So I hope to be in the next one.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, next one will be next year. We hope to see you back. And in the meantime, maybe have a good holiday. Go celebrate the win, and have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you so much.
Well, Jesse, beautiful race. It really was. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I'm glad I was here for the final race.
Yeah, it's always bittersweet, Mike Jones ending a championship, but you get a deserving winner and a champion as well. Tinko van der Velde, who stood in the shadow of the FFS racing guys in the early parts of this championship, ended up winning several races in a row. Unfortunately, was not able to be here today, but it didn't matter. Tinko van der Velde is your GT3 Friday World Champion here on RCI, and a well-deserved at that. He came back from being third fiddle all the way to being the champion, and well-deserved to him. So congrats to Tinko, but bittersweet, like I said, always ending a championship. We always look forward to what we might be able to do next year. And, well, I happen to know some of those plans. I can't quite reveal them here today, but things are going to be a little different in the new year.
Ryan and I might keep an eye on the YouTube channel here in about 10 days or so. We and Ryan might have a little video that we're going to be shooting sometime early next week and prepping for some announcements that are going on early next year. In the meantime, though, before we get to next year, we've got Sunday coming up, and I believe Ryan Gill has a little bit of graphics for that. Of course, Jardier shot me a DM just about 2 weeks ago, said, hey, Mike,
this is how
I want to run a race. Yep. Mike, I want to run a race again. Last year, we ran a 9 hours of Imola for him. This year, we are circling back on that 9 hour, and this time we're going to do 9 hours of Kyalami. And of course, the real life 9 hours of Kyalami just happened very recently as well. So it was very fitting. It's our first Kyalami endurance race since the 24 hour back in February. Very much looking forward to it. Me, Jesse Lee, Ryan Gill will be bringing you the comms for all 9 hours during that, and very much looking forward to it. Kyalami, one of my favorite tracks. Suzuka, another one of my favorite tracks, and me and Jesse will bring you the comms there on the GT World YouTube channel there for SRO Asia Endurance, starting in I don't know, about 7 hours for me. So you can catch Jesse and I on there as well, and of course Ryan Gill will be doing race control for that during the race as well. So action-packed weekend for ACC still at the end, and here is the graphic that Ryan was talking about. Jardier's Winter Special 2021, 9 hours of Kyalami. That'll kick off at when's the race start again, Ryan? Is it 10? I can't even remember, and I'm the one who scheduled it. It is 10 a.m. is when the race schedules off. We should be live around 9:20 a.m. GMT. Me and Mr. Gill will kick off the race. No, me and Jesse Lee will kick off the race, and Ryan Gill will come in a little bit later for the comms. So it's going to be a fantastic 9 hours of Kyalami.
Yeah, it sure will. It's going to be action-packed. If it's anything like Imola, this one is going to be an absolute blast as well. I feel sorry for anybody who doesn't like me this weekend and is also into sim racing esports, because you're going to get a lot of me this weekend. So it's going to be very fun. The Jardier Winter Special 2021. I love how Jardier calls. We answer the phone and put it all together. I don't know of any other community that does things quite like that, but the way it all came together so quickly, just like it did last time, in fact, it's going to be brilliant. You're going to want to stay home, stay in this weekend, watch some excellent sim racing at a couple of fantastic venues. But before we go tonight, of course, this is the season finale. Just want to thank all of you for being a part, being here this season. We wouldn't want to do it without all of you. We hope that you've enjoyed the racing that we have had on display. We invite you to like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all of the things, and join the Discord, get involved. Sign-ups for all of the new series of racing will be open sometime in the near future. Join the Discord, get involved. No matter what your skill level, we have a split for you. A big thank you to our partners, Race Department, racedepartment.com, your source for sim racing news, AK Informatica for providing our servers, Driver61. You can get 25% off your driver coaching at driver61.com by using our discount code. Many of us have done that, and it certainly can make you a better racing driver. Fanatec, of course, an excellent source for sim racing equipment, all direct drive. That company now reinventing what it means for sim racing equipment and doing it on a high level over there as well. And you can use our affiliate link over at fanatec.com. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it can help us with things like server costs when you use our affiliate link. Mike Jones, end of a season, new things in 2022. Looking forward to it, and it's apt that the three of us were in the booth today, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, we end up being kind of the Mawson has filled in quite a bit. I don't get to commentate quite as much as I would like to anymore. Might hopefully circle back to that in the new year. So hopefully we will catch you back in the new year a little bit more. We're gonna have a commentary meeting early on in January to kind of plan out the start of the year. And of course, once the World Tour starts, signups do open for the World Tour Endurance Championship, our flagship endurance championship. Open tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1800, 6 p.m. GMT. Make sure to get on, sign up for that. Last year, 3 splits filled up in about 20 minutes. So, of course, we'll have that. And myself, Jesse Lee, Ryan Gill. Hopefully, George Smith will be back by then as well. Ryan Gills has been trying to get him back in as well. And we'll be all here for the World Tour and the endurance season. Long endurance season, 6 months of racing. Should be a fantastic one. In the meantime, well, it's been a race. It's been a fantastic one. Ryan Gill has got something to flash on the screen here briefly. Racing Club International 2.0. What's coming in 2022? Well, we're going to find out. Like I said, me and Ryan Gill got a little bit of a video coming in. We've got, it is effectively Racing Club International 2.0 next year, guys. We've been around for about a year and a half now. Huge changes coming in. But the same great racing, of course, will be happening. In the meantime, I do believe it's time for a nap for me and Jesse. We've got SRO in a few hours, and then Kyalami in just a few hours after that. We'll catch you guys on Sunday for the 9 hours of Kyalami.